It's 2 o'clock. I would like to call the Finance Administration and Economic Development Committee workshop to order, please. If everyone could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our public notification of this meeting has been published, posted, and distributed in compliance with the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act. I would ask for an approval of our agenda.
So moved, sir.
Thank you. And seconded by Mr. Dawson. Thank you all. That will pass without objection. Is there any objection to us approving the agenda? Seeing no objection, we will move on. And we do have a citizens' comment period. Brenda, do we have anyone signed up for the Finance Committee? Okay, great. All right, let's move on then, because I know we have a busy day this afternoon. Let's jump right into number 6 on our agenda items, and that is presentation of preliminary budget initiatives, and that is from Ms. Denise Christmas, our Finance Director. Ms. Christmas, thank you for coming today. We appreciate you being here.
Hello. All right, so we're going to go ahead and go right into it. Brenna, you got us? Okay. All right, so this year we kicked off our budget season by meeting with each department head or their liaison or both, and we actually went through every line item of their departmental budget and discussed each line item with them. They were very grateful. Brian Cronin and I and Hayes, all three, have talked with each department and gone through their budgets, and they were very grateful and excited that we did that. So good news there. And we saw some areas where we could trim the fat, and we've got a process going with Whitney and Hayes and I trimming some fat. So hopefully we can avoid those surpluses next year and in the future years. Okay, so that being said, try the other one. Gosh, okay. Okay, all right, there we go. So the 4 items that we're going to talk about today very briefly are the millage and rollback estimate, new positions and merit plan, capital projects and capital requests, and our forecasted revenue. So as you all know, we're in our reassessment year. Ms. Ebony Sanders gave you all a great presentation a month or so ago on what to expect with this reassessment year. And this is just reiterating everything that she discussed during that time. And so, you know, as you all already aware, that when we calculate the rollback millage this year, it'll be calculated by taking your property taxes levied, and you divide that by your new adjusted assessment. So that's going to be part of our plan very soon when we get numbers. So just to let you know, we did get from the Association of Counties our CPI plus growth this year, and it's 8% for Beaufort County. CPI is 8%, and our growth was 2.27% for a total possible millage increase of 10.27%. Not saying that we're going to even, we're not looking at doing that whole thing. So we're just, don't get shocked, okay? So that's just briefly what we're looking at, and whenever we get final numbers or more accurate numbers throughout this budget process, we will know more as to what our rollback millage is going to be, and we can discuss that at a further time. So millage rates currently are up on the screen here. So for county operations total, we have 53.9 mills, and debt service is 5.6, purchase of real property is 5.3. So the current value of a mill countywide, based on assessed values, is as of when we sent the notices out last fall, was $2,127,780. I calculated it just today on our actual collections to date, and we're trending above the value that was placed that when we sent out the notices last fall, what we placed the value of the mill on then. So $2,184,344. That's based on actual collections. That's not unusual for the growth that we've been seeing, you know, over the past couple of years. So the projected value of a mill countywide, based on some very preliminary numbers we received from Ms. Sanders, is $2,395,190, which, as you can see, is about a $225,000 increase in the value of the mill. Again, those numbers are it's so early on right now. We haven't factored in new construction or assessed transfers of interest yet. So again, very preliminary. So new positions and merit plan. We met with HR, and they have a plan moving forward where they're going to train the supervisors on how to successfully and correctly fill out their performance evaluations for their employees. So this year, we're building in a 3% merit increase, which is in effect January 1st. So for half of a budget year, we're going to budget 3%. So we'll budget 1.5, maybe 1.25% into the upcoming budget. HR will begin training those supervisors very early in the next few months on how to fill out those evaluations to determine the merit for the employees. So, yes.
So at some point today, the county administration needs feedback from county council on how you all feel about us proceeding on with the merit, because that is a big expense. It's a big operation. So I need some clear direction for staff as to what your desire is going to be with doing an additional merit increase. You just did a 3% COLA that was reflected in this past payroll run with the employees receiving their payments on Friday for that. We are planning to recommend to you all that we do merit sometime to take effect in January. But if council does not desire to do that, then council and committee, finance committee, and members of council need to clearly communicate that today so that we can either continue to work on that or stop the work on that, because that is a lot of work for us to do, and we can't get at a point down the road and redo that once we're in the budget adoption process.
So Eric, is that a discussion that we need to have on the floor here? Is that something that?
I would greatly appreciate it, as long as it doesn't take too much time, but yes.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Okay.
Good. Ms.
Okay.
Christmas, good.
All right, so we also met with the executive committee on new position requests. So there are departments who requested new positions for the upcoming budget year. They are on the screen for the general fund. That's one page of them, and I think you all have access to this in there. Do they have access to this presentation, Brenna? Yeah, and Brenna can send you this PowerPoint so you can look at all the position requests, so we don't have to go through every one of them individually, unless you want to right now.
No.
Okay. All right, and so there's 2 pages of the general fund position requests. The ones highlighted are the ones that the department heads said that they could reclassify some of their vacant positions so it doesn't affect the budget. So they reclassified some of the vacant positions that have been rolling throughout the years and unfilled to these new positions, so it would not affect the budget again. And then this is the internal service fund. It's our garage, and these are new position requests due to us eliminating the contract with Fleet Services. Is that the name, Fleet Services?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so moving right along to the capital improvement fund and the capital requests this year. So these are all of the projects and requests for the upcoming budget year for the capital improvement fund. This year, no capital expenditures or budgets will be in the general fund budget. They're all moving over to Fund 1040, which is our capital improvement fund, which has its own millage currently. We could possibly be transferring a mill from debt service over to capital to cover these expenses. So this is our list, and again, you'll have access to this list. We met with Eric Larson on these projects, and we went through every one of them thoroughly, and I believe we have a good solid list here. $20 million worth of capital projects and requests. A lot of these, you can see in column that says fiscal year 2023, the monies have been earmarked, encumbered possibly. Those will be carrying forward, the balances will be carrying forward to 2024 fiscal year if the projects or purchases have not been completed by year end. Revenue forecast. Look at that big number up there. So, property taxes due to CPI, number is approximate. I calculated it with the growth not being included, just the 8% CPI, but again, that number is a moving target. If we decided to roll back millage, well, we have to roll back millage. If we decided to take advantage of our cap, our CPI plus growth, or just growth or CPI, or anything in between, that number would be affected by that as far as revenue coming in. The local government fund, as you all know, they fully funded the counties this year, so we're getting an increase of $402,238 in state aid. Interest on investments. Maria and Tanya and I had a conversation about a month ago where they were so happy and joyful and so excited about reinvesting investing our investments, reinvesting them and moving them into different locations where we could get the most bang for our buck and the most return on our investment. So we are expected to receive at least $400,000 more in revenue in interest, thanks to those ladies. I believe it's going to be more than that. And, I don't have my little, I can't click on that. Click on it. And so someone asked that we, and I don't know, but someone asked that we look at the surpluses in these areas of the elected officials, and we think most of them come from vacancies in those departments. So on the board, and you'll have access to this too, are all of the elected officials' departments. And for fiscal years 21 and 22, I think Hayes has put together revenue and, I can't even see it. Is it revenue and expenses up there?
For the general fund, it's just expenditures, because that's the line item, and then there are several funds, as far as, on the second tab that have split out revenues and expenditures, because it's a whole fund that you have to account for.
Yeah, Brenna, could you click on sheet 2? Okay, so those are two special revenue funds in our chart of accounts, which shows fund balances in those two funds as well. And I think that's, I don't know if I can, there you go. That's all I have. We're trying, it looks like, I'm not gonna say we're trying, but it looks like for the general fund this year, the budget is not gonna go up that much. In my opinion, we haven't finished it yet, but it's really close, and I don't think it's gonna go up that much because we're taking out some capital, we're taking out excess, some fluff that's been in there. So I don't think we're gonna have a huge increase this year in the general fund budget.
Ms. Christmas, how long have you been with us? 2 years?
Almost,
Almost 2 years?
yes.
Doing a wonderful job. And I remember when you came on, you said, I am going to make a difference and take care of all these things, and you have. I mean, I can remember when I came on in 2019, our whole budget was still in hard copy form. And now having everything online and transparency, people can see where every penny goes with every line item. I want to commend you and the finance team for, job very well done. So,
Thank you.
any questions for Ms. Christmas?
I do have one
Yep.
going back to the budget or the merit-based increases. I thought we had already agreed not to do the merit-based.
We did have that discussion.
Yeah, I thought we had that discussion about doing, was it step pay?
Oh, yes. My recollection was, when we discussed this, we were concerned about a merit pay because of what they're gonna have to go through for the training and whether or not they would be able to get that done. As well as, we have a step-and guide process that we could institute, but we also have reassessment of a plan that was in place for our comp and class, that they could redo a partial study of that, but we have to do a full-blown study of that. And that's what we were leaning towards on that basis. That is my recollection of what we did.
Obviously, we have a discussion now. Does anybody else want to weigh in on the on merit-based pay? I obviously feel the same way that Mr. Passman does. I think we've been very, very generous with with our COLAs, cost of living increases. Eric, how many have we had in the past 3 years? We've had at least two, if not.
You did a 5% early last year, you did 3% early this year. Prior to that, I don't think we did one in 20, we didn't do one in 20.
So we have recently done two,
8%.
okay,
But let me,
8%.
let me explain something to you about
Okay.
the merit, okay, and the reason why I'm proposing the merit. Whenever you just do a COLA, that treats all employees equally, regardless of their performance, okay? Poor-performing employees get the same thing as high-performing employees. Each time we've done the COLA, I get calls from elected officials saying, hey, we would like to reward some of our high-performing folks, and in order to do that, we need to have merit, the ability to do merit as well. So this is a good way to do that, whether we do straight merit or whether we do a step program. I've looked into those with our HR department. Either one of those has a certain level of subjectivity to it. If the people that are supervising the employees aren't doing their job properly, and the people who are supervising those supervisors who aren't doing their job properly aren't doing their job properly. So yes, I get it. There is problems with merit increase of any type. Someone could give someone, oh, I like this person, so instead of giving him a one-step increase, I'm gonna give he or she a two-step increase, and this employee, just gets a one-step increase. So that it is very subjective, even with a step program. Council did have that discussion during the workshop, but after the workshop, I got plenty of council members calling me outside of that discussion saying, I don't agree with the step program. I think we ought to just stay strictly merit. So first of all, I need you to tell me whether or not you want to program money in for a merit. It's going to be a little less than $1 million to do it. And if you do want to do merit, do you want us to implement a step program, or do you want us to do just traditional performance evaluations and do the 3% across the board after we train our employees? I propose that we stay, because it's going to take a long time to set up a step program if we do that, and we're not going to have time to do that this year. I'm proposing that we do up to a 3% merit for employees, and that we do that with the evaluations coming late fall for the raises to take effect in January of 2024. So that's what I need direction on.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to make a quick comment. I've had life experience under both systems. I think the recommendations to do the merit but not a step, and make sure the supervisors have some additional training, as was suggested, before that becomes effective, and to wait till January for it. Sometimes with a step program, the people, if you only have 10 steps, people max out on those steps, and there's no way to reward them, so.
Right.
Mr. Glover?
Yeah, thank you. Jim, I spoke about merit, and I shared my feelings about merit being subjective in nature. The administration is wanting to move toward merit. I think if we can put some parameters in it to assure that as much of subjectivity is taken out, I could support the merit moving forward. That's where I stand. I would tell you that in my employment, I would probably, having 5 or 6 employees, maybe one would have given me some merit. Doing the same job, the others wouldn't. So that's my bias at this time. So if we can move in a direction where we can get as much of that subjectivity out of it, I could support a merit moving forward.
Mr. Chairman, I do concur with what York said about putting some objective standards in there. I'd be fine with that on a merit-based pay, as long as there was an objective checklist or something like that they could fall back on.
Anybody else?
Right here.
Yep.
That makes
Mr. Hennigan?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing today, if we're talking about budgeting it, we can always remove it and have the surplus, correct? So if we are still having these debates about which direction to go, all we have to do is give a direction, move forward, that we think we want to do something, so the staff can build for that and plan for that, so they're not got caught off guard. Thank you. So I'm with the support of moving forward with the staff on that. I think that's something that would motivate them, something that I think they'd enjoy to work on. I know it's a big task, but there is a reward in the end of it. And if it's something we find that we can get the right parameters and the right setup for it, then at least we're prepared for it. I mean, that's really the discussion right now, is do we want to plan for it and figure out exactly what it looks like later after that.
All right, Ms. Tabernick, and then Mr. Dawson.
So, like Ms. Howard said, I have life experience under both. Since I was in education, we had automatic steps, and you know this, shake your head on this one. I'm a proponent of merit pay, and I love that we would train our supervisors to do it as objectively as possible, because there is a danger in subjectivity. But in my afterlife, when I got out of public ed, I did merit pay for the people that worked under me, and if you do it right, and if you really, people can rise to where they need to be, instead of just saying, oh, I'm gonna get a step increase anyway, I don't care. So it goes to what Mr. Greenway said, it encourages your employees, but it has to be done right. And also, Mr. Passman noted to redo the compensation study, because I know that is a few years old.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Mr. Dawson.
I'm apprehensive of the, the merit, increase, for the subjective, or the subjectivity of the matter. Unless the employee makes it known, then I don't think the department head and the staff who's overseeing the department head, I don't think they can take all the subjectivity out of it. And so unless the employee who feels that they're being unfairly treated or overlooked, unless they sound the bell, then I don't think management will ever know. And if we don't do it correctly, then we're just gonna create a morale problem in our workforce.
All right, so Mr. Greenway, it sounds like we have no idea. No, I'm just kidding. I think you got direction from us here that we'd like to at least consider that and look forward. And as Mr. Cunningham said, I think it's a good idea. We plan to go ahead and put something in the budget, and then try to figure out exactly what that is. Is that clear enough
We
direction?
will do
at this
that.
point?
Just two quick things. Number one, you have those same issues that have been raised with COLA. COLA creates compression in and on itself. Also creates morale problems, because as you bring in new people over time, those people that are coming in are offered more money to start than maybe people that were hired before them. So then whenever you do just a straight percentage COLA on top of that, it creates that compression that we try to avoid, and can create morale issues as well, particularly for those folks that are that are performing well versus those folks that aren't performing well. And while I'm very proud of the team that we have, we do have people that do not perform as well as others. So some sort of merit or incentive-based pay is a good thing for the county workforce to, drive higher performers to be even better. And yes, there's always going to be those folks that are going to have problems, and there's opportunities for them to comment in the system on the concerns that they have about their evaluations, for both the department head and the assistant county administrator over those departments to evaluate to see if any relief is given. So there's plenty of opportunity for them to
So
do that.
what do you think about us going ahead with getting it into the budget so we have
We are.
money? And then at one of our next meetings, we have more time, maybe you do a presentation and bring more information to
Yeah,
us
we'll
all.
bring it forward to you. I just wanted
Okay.
you all to know that we're automatically going to update the common class study as well. So thank you.
Chairman,
Yes, Mr.
before you go, I was told when we put in place the new comprehensive plan, compensation plan, that we were gonna deal with that, the term you use, compression, so that longevity is rewarded for being here. Knowledge of the system is being rewarded in that comp plan. Are you telling me now that that comp plan is not addressing that? Because that's what Ms. Richland told me.
I'm gonna let the
Yes, sir.
finance
Thank you.
person answer that.
I can help you with that. So yes, sir, when we implemented the comp and class study, we did give folks credit for years of service. So let's just say a pay range started out at $30,000 a year and someone had been here for 5 or 10 years. They were not started at the 30,000, they were pushed further into their pay band because of their years of service. But what Mr. Greenway is trying to explain to you guys now, for newer employees, let's just say the annual salary, or let's do an hourly rate, is $12 an hour. And we do a 5% COLA, and that hourly rate is increased. That employee has been here for, let's just say, 2 years. They've taken advantage, they've received the advantage of the COLA. But now we're hiring that exact same position. Because we did a COLA and not a merit-based pay increase, the very starting salary that was once 12 is now compounded by the COLA. So the person that has been here for 2 years now makes the exact same thing as the person that we're bringing on, because we're bringing them on at the minimum. Does that make sense?
So how do we correct that situation so that we do not penalize longevity?
Merit-based pay plans. Or steps, as it has been proposed.
So we need a combination of the
We
two.
do need a combination, and something like that takes time to develop when you have a workforce that is our size and as complex as ours, where the same jobs are not rudimentary. We are so varied countywide because of the nature of our departments and the services that we provide. It's not as simple as some other organizations might be that have a combination. So we have to individually evaluate departments and their functions and jobs within that
I would really
department.
support a hybrid of the two, because I don't think longevity should be penalized.
Right.
And that's what is happening, and that really would disturb the morale in the system. So I could go along with a merit to get started, but eventually we got to put a step in there somewhere just for that difference. I mean, I would hate to be on the job for 20 years and somebody getting fresh started making the same thing I'm making.
And we
stuff.
don't desire
And
that either. There is.
I know where every ditch is and every,
Right.
switch is in the system.
So, and that's going to be a complex thing for us to develop, and we know that it's going to take time to develop it properly, which is why the suggestion was made to kind of stopgap that in the meantime, do a small merit-based pay increase. And we will train our department heads, and I don't want to take a lot of time on this, but there is something called a bias, right? I look at Ms. Paula, and she's a white female. She's more like me. I'm going to give her a higher grade. Or Mr. Lawson is a Christian and he attends my church, I'm going to give him a higher grade. Or, you know, Bartholomew has 2 boys and I have kids and they're the same age, I'm going to give him a higher grade. So there's this intrinsic human nature that groups people according to similarities or likenesses, and it can kind of cause an intrinsic bias that we are not necessarily cognizant of unless we specifically address it and train it. And that is the kind of training that we have to do with each of our department heads or anyone who's in a managerial capacity that will be evaluating the performance of employees. So that's just one simple example of the subjectivity that we can train our folks to become aware of so that it is eliminated in that evaluation process. So that in itself is going to take time. So if you'll bear with us and be patient with us, we are working toward that.
Good, we look forward to that presentation. All right, thank you. Now, we've got 30 minutes left with 3 10-minute presentations. So we are limited by time, so let's go ahead and now bring up Ms. Heather Galvin, who's our probate judge. Ms. Galvin, thank you for coming today.
All right, thank you everyone for having me here. This is my first budget presentation, so if you'll bear with me, as you may recall, my boss retired and I took over his seat in January. So I want to thank everyone, first of all, for your kindness, support, and help throughout this process. I want to thank Mr. Greenway, Ms. Richland, Ms. Christmas, the whole team for their help. Now, in talking about the budget, we are grateful for everything that's been done. I appreciate going through the line items. I think that really helped with the process. The only category that I wanted to talk about briefly today was our category entitled Professional Services. And that's an account that in the past was utilized back when I was a staff attorney in 2006 and 2007 to pay me as an independent contractor to the probate court. So I did work under 2 of the prior probate judges and did that type of work. If you see in the account description, it's reserved not only for that, but for court reporters, translators, attorneys, guardian ad litems, examiners, and accountants. And so that fund was at $10,000. It hadn't been utilized under the prior administration, but I planned on utilizing it. I had several programs, and we're also seeing an increase in the need for translators. I have a mental health therapeutic commitment case that I need a translator for, that I'm gonna have to pay if there's not funds that we can find from elsewhere to assist with that. I also, and this was my fault, didn't put in there that I'm looking at paid internship programs. You know, that would save the county funds because we're not hiring an employee. So having paid internships from the TCL paralegal program, we had reached out to them, law students, local college students, and giving them a small stipend. So we were asking for 20,000, that had been cut to 0. We're hoping y'all consider something in that regard. And the other thing that I was going to mention as well, just to piggyback onto what they were talking about with the merit versus step. Since I've been with the county, they're right in saying that our employees have expressed displeasure at the COLA process. They're grateful for the COLA, but they feel like everyone is treated in the same manner. The current evaluation system, which I actually really like, one of the categories is job knowledge. So to me, someone who's been there 20 years has a lot more job knowledge than somebody who's been there 6 months. So there is a way that we can factor that in. In addition, the county administrator is correct that experience is a factor that we look at, and commenting at the end, the employee is allowed to comment. Now, perhaps the review process for that comment could change. Perhaps HR could look at that, or an independent authority, to make sure that the supervisor or, you know, the elected official is being objective in making those comments. I welcome any training in that regard, and I think it will only benefit. And I just want to thank everyone so much. I think the probate court, we're seeing a rapid increase. For example, just today, we had 17 new estates come in one day, and our staff is pretty overloaded. Our caseload is about 300 to 350 files per clerk, and that entails going through inventories, accountings, all types of things in all the jurisdictional areas that we handle. So I'm grateful for what you guys have done for us so much in allowing us to try to get some new positions into the court. And I'll just say, you know, I'll just quote from the Bluffton Today here that I have from Sunday, April 2nd, that Frank Rainwater, the executive director of the South Carolina Revenue and Financial Affairs Office, told state senators that we're going to be on track to have more seniors over the age of 65 than people under the age of 18. So we're just seeing that increase, especially here in Beaufort County. So as we come to you guys, you know, talking about these things, I just want to thank you for your patience, your help, and your cooperation. And I welcome any comments you may have.
Great, thank you. Any questions from Ms. Galvin?
Can I?
Yes, go ahead.
This past year, can you hear me well?
Yes.
I've had the opportunity to engage with you on many topics around the county. You are a class act, and I look forward to working with you, so.
Thank you so
Thank you
much,
for
and I
being here.
appreciate that. Means so
Absolutely.
much from you. And
Absolutely.
anything, you know, like I said, any questions, anytime anyone wants to come see the probate court and what we do, I'd be happy to show you. And I welcome any feedback you guys have. Thank you so much for your time.
Anyone else? Ms. Galvin, thank you for coming, and we hope to have you back many times after this, so thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to Ms. Walls. I think she is online. Maria, you there?
Yes, sir, I am.
And Ms. Walls
Good
is our-
afternoon, everybody.
is
Can you
our-
hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you fine, and Ms. Walls is our treasurer and always does a great job at presentations, so looking forward to what you have for us.
Thank you. Well, thank you for also allowing me to participate today virtually and accommodate some challenges with my schedule today. But I do want to say 2 of my leadership team members, Ms. Tanya Ward and Ms. Allison White, are there physically in the room with you there while I give our presentation today for the Treasurer's Office. Can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Wonderful. All right, so let's get started. So, the Beaufort County Treasurer's Office, our vision is people serving people, not transactions. We're known for collecting taxes, but what we want to be known for is our service to our customers. Our mission is that we're professionals serving with innovation and enthusiasm. And last but not least, our core values are own everything, not as in the tax sale, but as in taking ownership for all aspects of our role to evolve with purpose. Change is inevitable, but evolution is a choice, and we want to do that with purpose. And last but not least, serve with passion. All you need to do is speak to me probably for a few minutes or one of my staff, and we're very passionate about what we do. So before we get started on fiscal year 2024, I'd like to give you some 2023 statistics and just kind of recap where we've been for the past 12 months. We hit over $1.1 billion in cash management in January this year. We've never surpassed $1 billion, so that was a huge milestone. We're handling 392,000 tax accounts, current and delinquent. We have earned, not just for the general fund, but in total, a total of $11.1 million in investment returns in the past 12 months. We're billing about $560 million in current bills every year, doesn't include delinquent. And last but not least, we are handling 44,000 initial, so that's just initial contact, not back and forth, initial customer interactions during fiscal year 2023. So the Treasurer's Office has been very busy. Our cash balances are very healthy. I'm just sharing this with you so you have an idea of where we are so we know where we're going. The blue line is what's in our bank account, okay? Regular traditional bank account at Wells Fargo. Everything else, red and green, is our taxpayers' money being put to work and earning interest every moment of every day, right now. So we have those funds split between the local government investment pool run by the South Carolina State Treasurer's Office, and we also have those funds held in things like treasuries at UBS. And you can see right here, I believe you should be able to see my cursor, we surpassed, there's that 1.1 billion right there. So now let's look into the future, because as I've said in my previous presentations, Noah didn't build the ark in the rain. We're thinking about what is going to come in the next 12 months so we can prepare today to address those challenges and those needs. Our additional request for fiscal year 2024 is $99,700. The areas that is including is first advertising. Now, why would a treasurer's office advertise? It's not in the traditional sense. Think of this as public service announcements and awareness. We do ads in newspapers like the Bluffton Today when a penalty date is coming up. We do ads on our website, on the Island Packet website, social media, but also our new resident program. We have so many citizens, new citizens, moving to Beaufort County in each of your districts who do not know what they should do when they arrive to the county. How do they get a driver's license? How do they get their vehicles registered? We provide content and frequently asked questions to realtors associations and closing attorneys so that our new taxpayers know what to do the first time, such as the legal residence exemption. So we make sure that we are meeting our customers where they are to hopefully avoid stressful situations and inconveniences. Next is our tax bills. If we don't hear from a taxpayer or a customer, a citizen in Beaufort County all year long, they will hear from us then. So a tax bill may be the only interaction that property owner has with Beaufort County all year long, and we want to make sure that it continues to print successfully, to have the appropriate amount of postage, but also to increase our communications with the new resident program. What we are looking to do is instead of it would be in addition to providing this information to our realtors and closing attorneys, but we will be even more proactive than that by mailing a postcard. We have this data through the Register of Deeds office to know when transfers are happening. A real property is changing hands. It just gives Beaufort County and the Treasurer's Office the ability to say, hey, we see you bought a new property. Would you like some assistance in figuring out what exemptions you might need to get, how to register your vehicle? So again, another opportunity for proactive communication. Now, I will share with you, we have an increased adoption rate of My Beaufort County every month and every year, which is outstanding. It is not making up for the growth in population that we're experiencing, though, which accounts for the printing and postage increases in the budget. My Beaufort County, the benefit of that is not only is it more reliable for the customer, but it is free. It costs the county nothing for us to utilize those services to send out an electronic bill. So anybody watching, I encourage you to sign up for that, save us some printing and postage. And last but not least, because it's probably the thing I'm most excited about, is technology. We, thanks to council support a few years ago, we implemented the use of Zendesk. It is a customer care software that manages inquiries and important information so that essentially, if you call with an issue, you don't have to repeat yourself every time someone answers the phone. It will register that you've called before. Supervisors can see ratings and reviews from customers as to how their call went, what they thought of the care they received. And it's just an incredible tool. We would like to add phones and additional users so that for the first time ever, every customer interaction will be housed in this customer care software. So if you've used our chat or our email, it's going through Zendesk. Our phones have been going through the IT department, and we would like to transition that to this customer-centric tool. Okay, merit-based pay. You guys kind of talked about everything, so I'm just going to tell you what we're asking for because Councilman Glover is absolutely correct. A combination of COLA and merit is absolutely necessary, and again, in my opinion, for a successful organization. You need trustworthy supervisors to administer it and be a part of the process, and you need growth-minded employees and subordinates to be willing to engage in the process as well. So it involves everybody. In the treasurer's office, the tasks are no longer enough. I told you our vision, mission, and core values because that is what we will be changing our performance evaluations. We will no longer be grading people on attire or communication. They will be assessed based on our vision, mission, and core values because, again, the tasks are not enough. It will allow for purposeful coaching throughout the year. This is not going to be a one-time-a-year process for the treasurer's office. And in order for this to create organizational success, I need to be able to tie their compensation in our office to our vision and mission and core values. Now, this would not negate, I'm not looking to remove our department from the COLA process or anything like that, but I've been in the office for 12 years and I have seen councils change and administrations change, and there is a great inconsistency across those 12 years in how our employees were handled. And if I could summarize my message to you today, without this tool to go forward, we will be hindered in our ability to keep our staff and obtain new ones. I believe it was Ms. Richland who mentioned bringing, Mr. Greenway probably, could you bring on new employees at a higher rate? The job market has changed, but Beaufort County salaries has not responded to the job market change in a holistic sense. It's been on an individual sense, which again creates disparity. I am asking for an increase, not just for this year, but in each year going forward of 5% of our salary expense line item so that I can administer this program with our staff. I applaud our new HR director and the initiatives of the county to move forward in this manner. We're ahead of where you are starting right now. And I am asking respectfully to be allowed to continue moving forward with the progress that we've made rather than stand still. Now, I want to give you some idea of what that looks like. We will be implementing a 360 review. For those of you who've come from the private sector, you're probably very familiar with this, but we will have traditional downward reviews, which are not blind. They will come from the person supervisor. Our leadership team will engage in peer reviews, which will also not be blind. And then there will be blind upward reviews. So if you manage a team of 10, you are going to be reviewed by your subordinates. For the first year, this will be a learning and evolve with purpose exercise. But in the next year and the years after, I intend to tie supervisory compensation to the performance of their team. That is how I believe you get great leaders in great roles so that we can move our organization forward successfully. So last but not least, these are the people that I'm representing today. These are the people who know everything in my presentation today because I already discussed it with them in January. And we're looking forward to 2024 and the exciting things happening for Beaufort County. So with that, I am 1 minute over. But I am happy to take questions about anything you may want to know.
We are pushed for time, but just real quick, Ms. Walls, it sounds like you are looking to do your own comp and class and merit pay, which is separate from the county? Is that what
I
you're?
believe that the more we are in line with the county, the better. I would still like to participate, our department to participate like we have in the past with the comp and class study, so that we are not having redundant expenditures. But I need to be able to evaluate my staff in a manner that I see fit, so that we can continue performing the outstanding work that we are. And they need to be able to rely on being rewarded for outstanding staff. The question has come up in this meeting as to biases or performance or low performing employees. I don't let low performing employees work on our team. I only have high performers or those in the process of becoming high performers. It doesn't make us perfect, but in my mind, there's no such thing as a good job or a bad job as long as you have a growth mindset. In order to keep a growth mindset on your team, you need to tie it to their compensation. That is why people are working for Beaufort County. It's for a paycheck to take care of their families and the people they love at home. So I am asking for my own merit pay structure similar to the sheriff's office, but slightly dissimilar in that I would like to continue to participate as we always have been in the comp class study, so there's no redundancy in expenditures.
All right, we are pushed for time to give Sheriff Tanner enough time. Is there any other questions for Ms. Walls before we? All right, Ms. Walls, thank you so much. Again, as usual, very, very thorough presentation. So thank you for coming out today, and we appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
All right, great. Let's move on. And we have Sheriff Tanner and Susanna Cook. And a pleasure to see y'all again. And of course, Sheriff Tanner puts Ms. Cook out there first and to take the firing
I'm who I
line.
am, yes.
But yes, ma'am, the floor is yours. Wonderful to see you again. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. What is being passed out to everyone is a one-page summary of our fiscal year 24 budget request. As it's been stated before, we've already gone through the line items. So what I provided you is just any differences that administration is going to recommend versus what we have requested. With any budget, the revenue source is very important to distinguish. The first one is the general fund dollars. And as you can see, we have requested the $31,188,389. The second column is what administration is recommending as of Thursday of last week, and there's the difference. The second table actually breaks down that $148,829 into the line items where what we have requested versus what they are recommending. So it shows you the actual difference of what they are presenting to cut. The second revenue source is CIP funds. However, after watching Denise Christmas, her presentation, looks like that has been included in the CIP funds. And then lastly is the town of Hilton Head law enforcement fee for the law enforcement services that we provide for the town. Yes, we have a large increase there. It is $516,150. However, County Finance has come up with their projection of the revenue from the law enforcement fee for fiscal year 24 of $5,150,000. And if you look at the last table, they have recommended cutting salaries, $169,139, and have requested that we cut our budget an additional $279,328. And I've looked through, there are 42 positions that actually are under this law enforcement services that we provide. And looking at their calculations, the personnel, taking every single one, prorating it with our compensation plan that is very important to retain and recruit personnel, I can't cut anything else. There isn't anything else to cut. But I wanted to make you aware of this information, and it's just something that I guess we're all going to have to discuss. Any questions?
Any questions?
Susan, you
Yes,
said
sir.
5 million?
No, the revenue projection's $5,150,000. If you look at the top, the very first table, the
Right.
third line, that's what county finance is projecting to.
But when you're talking about the law enforcement fee for Hilton Head, it's almost 3 million.
No, sir. They are projecting revenue to be collected at $5,150,000 from the town of Hilton Head law enforcement fee.
Okay.
I provide the expenditures, they provide the revenue projections.
All right, so just going back to Chairman Passman, so right now, we're projected to collect the $5,082,000 from our fee, is that correct?
The very first table, the third line, town of Hilton
Yes.
Head law enforcement fee, under the column fiscal year 24 administration recommendations, they are projecting to receive, or the law enforcement fee will generate the $5,150,000. However, we are requesting the column to the left, $5,598,467.
So that's what you're saying, that the law enforcement on Hilton Head is costing us right now?
Yeah, that will for fiscal year 24, yes, sir.
Okay. And I think our cost is tied directly to, I mean, so obviously the
We're-
fees that you propose is what's tied directly to what's charged on Hilton Head for
Whatever
our fee.
whatever the sheriff's office says it costs us to provide services to Hilton Head Island, we will recalculate the service fee to raise that amount of money for the people on Hilton Head Island. Yes, that's
It is
correct.
in-
So council needs to make sure, particularly those representatives from Hilton Head Island, understand that and what the implications are that for the residents of Hilton Head Island.
Okay. Any other yes, Ms. Tabernick, go ahead.
So Susanna, if I look at the last box, you're saying that, the sheriff, or the request is 2.9 million, administration saying 2.8, so you have about a $500,000 difference, and you're saying you can't find where to cut that in the budget.
Correct, yes, ma'am. Also, I'd like to state during Ms. Christmas's presentation, she was showing you fund balances, which this is a separate fund altogether. Only the revenue collected from the Hilton Head law enforcement fee and the expenditures associated with the Hilton Head law enforcement services are in this particular fund. There is a fund balance, however, we will be utilizing the fund balance in order to balance our fund this year. There will not be, we were spending absolutely almost every single dollar. Probably less than 1% would be turned back into the county for our general funds this year. We will not have a large surplus.
All right, I have one more question if there's, so going to the very top line, number one, general fund dollars.
Sir,
That is what fiscal year '23, so last year, that was your approved amount, $29,644,000. And then you're actually requesting the $31,188,000. Our administration is recommending the $31,039. So you are asking for an increase of the, is that how much more? That's 600,000 more in the, just a range from last year, and staff is recommending, you know, a $400,000 increase from last year. Is that kind of what I'm reading?
our increase is about 1.5 million, 31.1.
Oh, you're right. I was off there $1 million.
Oh,
Yes.
that's okay.
All right.
And, yes, sir, we agree on every line item except for that table 2. The salaries and wages, they would like to provide $86,619 less than what we are requesting, and so on for each line item after that.
So just going back to my original question, so you're asking for a $1.6 million increase from last year. Staff and their recommendations is at 31 million, so that would be less than what you've asked for, but there is an increase there. So, and obviously, this is the first time we're seeing this. Any other questions from council at this point?
I do right now, real
Yes.
quick one.
Yep.
Coming up with this budget, hearing what Mr. Greenway says, who communicates this to the town of Hilton Head so they're prepared for this?
Good question.
You know, as a representative, I think I'll get caught in the crosshair if I don't ask that question.
The town of Hilton Head doesn't have anything to do currently with the police fee that we charge.
Yeah, but they pay the taxes for it, correct?
But yes, not the town of Hilton Head, but it's the residents.
Residents, well,
of
I
Hilton Head.
represent the
Yes,
residents.
Exactly.
So I'm asking, who does that communication with them? Please.
You do.
Thank you. Do I have that permission, Mr. Chairman, to do that?
These are our numbers right now. They're not finalized. This is what has been brought to us. So yes, ma'am, this is
They
made
will
for
hear about this.
everyone
Thank
to
you,
see
Bill.
and everyone to go through, so.
Thank you very much. I appreciate this, and this is, eye-opening for sure. Thank you.
Good. Any other questions? Sheriff Tanner? Save the best for last. You let her take
No,
all
I
the
mean,
shots and.
she's a CFO. She
She-
did a good job, and she does a good job every day.
Absolutely she does.
Any questions for me about the budget?
Sheriff Tanner, how many positions do you have open right now that you need to fill?
Open?
Yes.
Well, it depends on what area. If it's communications, that number is one. If it's admin, it's another. And enforcement, I think, is at 24.
24.
All total is somewhere around 37 total. But that's combination of all those.
Would this budget allow you to fill those positions, or is that just allocated?
Applications will allow us to fill, those
Gotcha.
positions. The budget supports that, yes. Without the budget, we can't fill any positions.
What happens with that revenue with the open positions?
It sits in an account.
Creates a surplus at the end.
So what would the value be of those positions open compared to your surplus?
The value is predictable
You
by
don't-
Suzanne.
As you can imagine, the 37 open positions, we don't budget 100% of their salaries throughout the year because we won't hire everybody July 1st. Therefore, we prorate those positions and the expenditures associated with them. And we will not have a surplus, Mr. Cunningham, this year. We are using every salary dollar for the employees that we have on staff.
So if we budgeted for it last year and approved it, did those funds go to positions that weren't filled?
Because what we did, in order with the cost of living, we transferred money out of our supplies into our personnel in order to pay for the 3% cost of living. So we stopped buying certain items that we will purchase July 1st.
Thank you.
Good. Any other questions? No, and as usual, when we go through these budget workshops, any questions you have for any of our elected officials, you can send them to Sarah and Brenna, and copy me as well. We will then get those questions to those officials, and then they'll usually respond written, and then everyone will get those responses. So it's not something, we're not hammering them with individual questions, and everyone gets the same questions and same information. So if that's okay, Sheriff Tanner, if that's how we've done in the past, if that's, we'll continue doing
We
that.
highly recommend doing that.
Okay.
And we encourage county council to reach out. I'll encourage you to reach out to me or Suzanne if you have questions about the budget. I would rather us do that on a consistent basis. That way these questions are answered. Because we can do it. It doesn't have to be in an open session. We can give you the information over the phone or send you a text or send you an email. So if you got questions, ask.
I have
Makes
one
it a whole
for
lot
you.
easier.
Yes, good.
What's your thought on merit pay since everybody else weighed in?
I've got a very good answer.
Can't wait.
24 years ago, I started a compensation plan at the sheriff's office when I took office. It's a performance-based. I say you get rid of the word merit because it really doesn't mean anything. I think if you're going to create a compensation plan, it has to be based on performance. And that's individual performance. You have to have a scale. We use a scale. It's all based on performance, and we have a longevity plan. It would behoove you to have that in place in Beaufort County. It has worked very well for us. It's managed. I've got 350 total employees, so we do our evaluations on our employees. If you're brand new every 6 months, and if you've been in the system for a while, it's on an annual basis. Your anniversary date, the date of hire, is your performance-based evaluation. So staff is not doing hundreds of evaluations in January or July. They're done throughout the year, and that keeps Suzanne from being overwhelmed with the work that she does. So it's imperative. You've got to do it. Somebody asked me about affordable housing the other day in Beaufort County. It's the easy answer. Pay your employees to be able to live in the county that they work and enjoy the same amenities that everyone else enjoys, and that way they can afford to either rent or buy, and it's their decision. It's not the government's decision-making on that. So just pay your staff. Consistent COLAs is a must. Inconsistency is where you run into problems. Inconsistencies is where you run into problems with compression. But you can override all of that if you're consistent with a COLA, you have a performance-based pay scale, and you also look at longevity, and it's got to be based on performance. So whatever scale you create is how you pay your employee. If they're not performing, their percentage is a lot lower than those that are performing at the level you want them to perform. So it makes them work for the dollar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cook. Thank you, Sheriff Tanner. We appreciate the job that you do, and obviously, you help to make this county a safe place and raise our values, and we do really appreciate that, so thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I can assure all of you, it is absolutely my pleasure.
Thank you.
All right, seeing nothing else before this committee, we are adjourned, and the next, how much of
Excuse
it?
me. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yes.
But I just want to make sure that all the elected officials and not just the sheriff's office should expect to be hearing any questions from council so that we have an understanding of whether our budgets will be approved by council as presented or with deviations. How is that going to be communicated, I guess, is my question.
Well, if we have any questions for your office, that will go directly to you, and of course, then, as other offices come up, whether they're presenting or we'll see their budgets and be able to get back to them
She
with
can
questions.
reach out to me directly, and I'll answer that question for her. Before you adjourn, I'd like for you to recognize Auditor-elect, please.
Yes, and I almost forgot to do that. So we do have today David Cadd, who is our auditor. And Mr. Cadd, if you want real quick, come up and introduce yourself, and thank you for coming. We appreciate you being here. You have no budget because you're just starting, so.
Well, I kind of do. I'm using everybody else's budget, but yeah. I just want to say good afternoon to Chairman Lawson, Chairman Passman, council members. A few things about myself. I'm David Cadd, the auditor-elect. Thanks for inviting me. I'm a retired Marine. I got a Bachelor of Science in Business and Human Resource Management, and I have an MBA. I worked in the Treasurer's Office for a short stint, and then I was the Deputy Auditor for the county for 5 years before I was let go. Upcoming July, I really look forward to it. The business model is going to be cooperation, customer service, of course, and integrity. And the whole purpose of my job is, as I always talk to Tom about, property taxes, nothing but property taxes. Get you guys the money for your services, and at the same time to ensure the residents are getting taxed properly and they're doing everything they're supposed to be doing. Mr. Greenway asked me to talk about how I plan on getting along with council and, loaded question, and county administration. So this is it. It's pretty simple. I'm a simple person. I believe in mutual trust between everybody. That's the way I am. I will treat you the same way you treat me. I want to be a team member and at the same time be included out part of the team. I mean, it's simple. Hope to be treated equally without apprehension. Many of the staff in this room have worked for more, other administrators, which is great. They're still here because of their performance. I just want you to understand, I ask for the same chances, not to be judged by who my previous boss was, but be judged me by merit. I believe come July, the new auditor's office is planning on doing everything new in its power. I look forward to improving processes. I sent out an email asking for a few budget item things. I've sat down many times with Mrs. Walls, trying to get our office connected together, trying to get the programs together. So as she says, it's a better experience for everybody. And the more people we get online with that, I think it's going to make the county a lot happier. And like I said, my whole mission is move that office into a digital era because it's really behind everybody else right now. And I need to get it pushed forward because, as I tell everybody else, we don't know when the next pandemic coming, but it's coming. And we don't know and we know that we can't let people in the building, we can't do this, we got to get people to work from home. And I think the only way to do that is getting these offices up on their webpage, getting these offices digitized so we can do everything like that. And that's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Cadd. Any questions? Great.
If I could say one more thing.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
The merit base is the way it is. I got to tell you a story. When I first came to work here, they did a compensation survey, and there's underperforming people that were not getting pay raises, let's say. So they went through and did this compensation survey, and those people ended up getting $6,000 checks to meet up with everybody else's pay. So there you go. After that, what happened? I lost all good employees. They walked out the door because now that person that was underperforming is getting paid the exact same amount of money they are right now. And it happens. They walk out the door. That's all I got. Thanks. Appreciate it, sir.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All right. 5 minutes, so we will read the next committee meeting, 3:10.